This is the Criterion Creeps podcast, and tonight we're talking about The Killers from 1946 and The Killers from 1964, and, well, for kicks, The Killers from 1955.
Wait, I'm confused. Is that not actually in the collection?
Well, 3 movies count as one spine number, so it's...
But the short film is actually included.
Well, there is also a telecast, a TV movie version of this that's does not have a letterboxd entry, so it doesn't exist with Dean Stockwell, I guess. So we didn't watch that, but that's neither here nor there. So, anyways, folks, The Killers. It's an Ernest Hemingway short story. If you didn't know.
Is it?
It is. And actually, a copy of it is on the Criterion DVD.
Is it?
It is.
What, of the short story?
Yeah.
On the DVD? What is it? Just a fucking
text.
Screen of text?
Yeah, and you read it and you go page by page through it, you know.
Huh. Actually, I remember there was DVDs when I was younger that actually had books, and you would just click the thing to move the page.
The story itself is maybe just over 1,000 words. It's not particularly long.
Yeah, it's not long.
Did you read it, RJ?
Yeah, you're goddamn right. I read it.
Why? I
was reading about that applesauce.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty I would say the Tarkovsky one and then the intro in the 46. They're pretty much literal adaptations of that story, right?
So we'll get to it, but the fatal flaw of the feature films of this is they're basing their idea on this
intro,
this piece of literature that is an example of Hemingway's minimalist writing style, some peak terse to the point writing, where it is. I mean, he even, you could say, overwrites compared to a Cormac McCarthy or even some latter day James Ellroy, where there's they don't even necessarily tell you who's saying what they're saying. You just kind of have to get into the rhythm of the last time he said was in reference to somebody, and you just go, oh, it's 2 people having a conversation. And there's sometimes not even quotation marks to designate whether or not they're actually saying words. So The Killers, I mean, the short story, it actually really treats you to these sort of artifices of oh, I understand who's saying what to who at all points. But nowadays, oh boy, we get into some where some writing just looks like concrete poetry.
Concrete poetry.
That's right. Throwing out the big words, RJ. Big words. So yeah,
fine artisanal.
So I had first read this short story back when I was taking an English 1000 class in university, and I was kind of getting turned on to this Hemingway. And I mentioned before I've some James Ellroy, and I think that was my first introduction to that style of writing, and then being oh, this is a literary thing with Hemingway, I guess would be an example of a modernist doing this. And some people it works for, and other people are he doesn't do enough. He doesn't really build up these characters well. And I'm
what, for the Hemingway thing?
Yeah, I've actually seen it. It's I'm no, it's a short story. And I've read it, and you're okay, yeah, that's what it is. It kind of reminds me of film noir kind of film dialogue. It reminds me of the shortness has a quality of Waiting for Godot. And I've never needed a movie of Waiting for Godot that explains what happens when he showed up and what happens, why is he late. That's kind of what the Killers movies are. Is they're asking questions that only goofs are asking, or screenwriters who have to hey, make a movie out of this. Chop chop. Hemingway, he's big.
You know that Hemingway, he's big. Yeah. He's big now.
Big. He's a box office draw, boffo. And so you wind up with a movie here and a made for TV that wound up being a movie in theater later on, or a template for a student film. It's definitely best suited, I mean, if you want to just do a straight adaptation, as a student film. That's practice for an aspiring filmmaker like an Andrei Tarkovsky. But we'll get there. First up, we got The Killers, 1946, directed by Robert Siodmak. Mac Attack. The tagline for this film: she's a match for any mobster. Two hitmen walk into a diner asking for a man called the Swede. When the killers find the Swede, he's expecting them and doesn't put up a fight. Since the Swede had a life insurance policy, an investigator, on a hunch, decides to look into the murder. As the Swede's past is laid bare, it comes to light that he was in love with a beautiful woman who may have lured him into pulling off a bank robbery overseen by another man.
It's not a bank robbery. They robbed the hat factory.
They robbed.
That's a huge plot point in this thing.
They robbed the bankroll.
They rob the hat factory. I know. I took a screenshot. I thought it was ridiculous.
Well, the payroll, payroll is a lot of money. Got to get all
I'm aware.
The hat people get paid,
Yeah, I'm aware. I just thought it was comical.
So I watched this not too long ago for the very first time. I had this the 2-movie DVD set, the big thick black DVD case from Criterion ages ago. Bought it back when because I wanted that Lee Marvin in my life, and later on I was like, oh, I want this Burt Lancaster in my life as well. And this is the feature film debut of one Burt Lancaster here, displayed in full beautiful black and white. That big strapping man. And we have Ava Gardner to boot here. So, as I was kind of mentioning, the whole movie always kind of feels unnecessary to me because, again, it's asking, like, it's like you have this, like, pretty succinct story about, it's like kind of like almost like a style piece of, like, these gangsters. I mean, I guess he wrote this during Prohibition era in this place called Summit in Illinois, just outside of Chicago, because I guess that's where kind of like your Al Capone type gangsters, they all left Chicago when the heat was getting too much, and then they went to these smaller places on the edges to do their business. So this kind of like plays into that element. But here it's like they're in Nowheresville. Like it's just like some small town, and there's no reference to the Chicago stuff necessarily. And the whole idea of like these two guys, these heavies show up. They make wise. They tie up some people, saying exactly what they're there to do, which is come and find and kill the Swede. And then when the guy doesn't show up, they leave because they're just going to try again later. And then the Nick Adams character, he shows up at the Swede's house to warn him. And then Swede, Ole Anderson himself, not Arn Anderson's brother, he's very like, yeah.
Louis Anderson?
Not Louis either. It's just, oh yeah, I know it's coming. That's fine. And it's kind of like more weird. Like it's supposed to be an off-putting thing, and this like thing about accepting death, and it's that's all. It's kind of there. And at least in this version, it does that part at the very beginning. But then they're like, well, how did it come to be? Because like you actually see him get violently gunned down, and you're like, oh yeah, this is definitely the Hollywood movie version of this idea. And then the rest of the movie, I've heard some people throw out that it's like Citizen Kane, because
who threw out Citizen Kane when watching this movie?
Well, that was professional film critic Mike D'Angelo.
That guy's so full of shit.
So
yeah, every time you bring him up, he's got such a bad take.
Why? This one I just like, oh, I see, because there's flashbacks. There's lots and lots of flashbacks. Like that's the thing. All these movies are flashbacks because if all your action is set with like your protagonist, I guess, being gunned down, everything has to take place before that happened. So you get all the stuff that you didn't necessarily know you needed, and then you're like, oh, did I actually need that? So a lot of the movie hangs on this important thing. What can I say about this movie? It's really well photographed. As far as noir stuff that I've seen, it's kind of just middle of the pack stuff. Even now, I'm like having a hard time recalling any details. Burt Lancaster doesn't really stand out to me. I've seen better with him.
I've seen better.
I've seen better Lancaster. That sweet smell of success doesn't get much better than that. Ava Gardner. I didn't really like think of her as like, oh, hey, that's Ava Gardner, because she's like, oh, she's this like really beautiful brunette woman. That's kind of like RJ. You get the one thing that I guess they do that's like a technical that's kind of cool, is the bank robbery itself, which is kind of this one big kind of pull away shot as it kind of reveals all this, and it's all done after the fact, like where there's like a voiceover narration. You don't get into it where there's there's like you don't need that tension. It's like, oh yeah. There's always like payroll robberies in some movies. I think it's Pretty Poison is another one where it's like Anthony Perkins is robbing the payroll. I don't know. It's a thing.
How many other movies have hat factory robbings?
I don't know. Maybe just the one.
How many hats do you think this factory was putting out? Were they like bowlers? Were they fedoras?
This is like the 40s, so it's probably like just putting
so
out fedoras left and
from
right.
The mall.
Well, then you think about like wind. I mean, wind blown away hats. That's like the best business for a hat factory there is.
Oh, so you're saying this takes place in Creepsville or not Chicago? We're way windier than Chicago. That Windy City stuff is all horse shit. Horse shit.
The investigator doing the investigation stuff with the insurance. It's very like that's a trope of a lot of these noir pictures too. It's like Double Indemnity, I guess, is the most iconic one, where it's just kind of like, yep, there's the reason why there's a man investigating these things and going to these great questions, even though it's like he's going well beyond his purview, I believe, going to the depths that he does for this amount of money. It's like, what is it, $5,000? I guess that's or $2,000. That's a lot of money, I guess, in 1946 to a complete stranger. It's like, what's the angle?
I think that's like the crux to this whole, like, this entire movie is you're watching it and you're like, is that guy an insurance adjuster?
Essentially.
Why is he acting like a private detective? And it's like, well, he just got really interested in the case. You know how sometimes people get like really into their work, and it's like, I guess, but it's like this guy is really going to extremes here.
So there is insurance adjusters, but there also is like private investigators that insurance companies hire.
Yeah. But it's just the way this guy presents himself all the time. He's like I'm in insurance. Like Dougie? Ooh, Mr. Jackpot?
Yeah.
Ooh, baby. But he was connecting stuff no one else could even see. Do you know what I mean, Jarrett?
That's right.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, that was the one thing that really took me out of it. I was just like, who's this insurance guy? Even if he is a private detective, I was like, why does this guy give a shit?
Why are people talking to this guy?
Why is anyone talking to him?
Where's his warrant?
Well, even like the ex-cop, he's like, yeah, I was on the force. Yeah, I was on the force. I'm a cop. He's like, you were running a little investigation, eh? Maybe I'm going to tag along, relive glowy days.
Because we used to be friends back in the old days when he was just a bum getting beat up in the boxing ring. Another great trope of noir is boxers. And then there's the girl that he leaves behind because the dark-haired femme fatale comes along and strings him along.
I will say...
He takes the fall for her.
I don't want to... like play my hand too early, but I do think the failed boxer is an infinitely more interesting backstory than the failed race car driver. But I mean, that's just my own personal preference. I think I think boxing is more entertaining than driving,
especially when he's just getting beat up, just hammered away in this. And I guess like in the original short story, he was a boxer.
Yeah, so makes more sense. I felt like this one. I didn't realize that I read the short story after I watched this one, just by accident. Not by accident. I forgot that there was a short story, and then I watched it after I watched this one. And I was like, oh, this one kind of makes more sense with this movie as opposed to the other movie. But I guess like both movies just make up the story.
Yes. Yeah.
Right, Jarrett? They just make up that story?
Yeah, they fill in those. Like I said, they answer the questions you didn't ask.
Yeah. But I mean, we're talking about The Killers 1946.
Yeah.
What else do you got to say about The Killers 1946, Jarrett?
That's honestly...
That's it?
That's about it, I think.
Yeah, I'll take over from here.
Yep.
Okay, I think this movie is shot real nice.
Yep.
That intro with the silhouettes walking to the diner is supreme. It is ace. It looks so pretty. I think that they really fucking fly through that diner scene in this, where they like, there's no bullshit in this version of the movie where it's just like, And I don't know if it's better, if that's better or worse. I'm just stating it as a objective fact. They really fly through that thing.
And I will say that at this point, our N-bomb count is at 0.
True. Very, very true. So, yeah, there's no N-bombs. There's no Lethal Weapon 5 blackface scenes in this one, but we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there.
You'll get there. So yeah, they fly through that intro real quick, and I think that this one, I do find the flashback things a little bit tiresome.
Yeah, there's way too many, and they're really long. And you're like, wait, they told that entire story in like how long? Like they've just been standing around telling this whole goddamn thing for
like the first time it happens when they talk to the mechanic who is like his boxing buddy, and then it's like 30 minutes, and then it cuts back to him, and you're like, oh shit, I forgot this guy was here. And I understand it as like a mechanical story element where it's like you get these different perspectives and these different stories,
but it's all one story.
But it's all one story, and it would almost like it's one of those weird things where it's like it is cool to have that cold open and then go back to it, but you almost don't need all these like personal interviews with these people like giving their 2 cents. Like that's the entire movie. That's the whole premise of this thing. But like you don't really need that. If you just had the opening and then it was just like one guy telling the story, I think that would be better because it wouldn't be as interrupted every time you shift to new people, and you would just be like
I guess like the whole thing is like, because they're adapting this short story, and it's like, well, the only way to really introduce these characters, the killers, who they are just afterthoughts at the end of the movie, where you have this like stupid shootout.
Yeah,
it's just like, oh man,
I just realized I was confusing the 2 movies. The mechanic is in the other killers.
I was gonna say, because he works at the gas station.
I'm confused, but like that story by the other mechanic, I actually thought played out nice. I was like, yeah, that's a nice little short one. But then you get another one, and you
get the landlady talking about when she walked in, and he was like talking about throwing himself out the window.
Yeah, Jarrett style.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have those, and those are all fine. I think this movie has it checks all the newer boxes as far as I'm concerned. Newer. I would never proclaim that I am an expert in these noirs, but I feel like it's got all the things, like even the way people talk, the way people move through like scenes and like through sets. Like that sounds weird because I don't really have a description for that, but like just the way people talk as they walk through the scenes, it's just like, yeah, this has that noir film or vibe. And it's like, what is that? I don't know. Just watch this, and then you'll know what I'm talking about. So you have like all that shit, which is good enough, you know. It's good enough, and I do think that like the setup with the backstory that they create for him, where like his tensions with these other people, I do think makes sense to a point. Like he's a little bit hot in that poker game, and it comes out of nowhere. And then even that one guy's like, he shouldn't have hit you. That's a weird thing he did. He shouldn't have hit you. But then that cuts to the flashback of this dying man on the bed, and he's like, shouldn't have hit him. Shouldn't have hit him. He shouldn't have hit him. Shouldn't have hit him. And you're watching this as a movie, and you're just like, what? You're like, how did those people get that whole story out of this like trembling man on a bed who's just like, shouldn't have hit him. Should have hit him. Should have hit him. You're like, I don't know. Maybe that was just me, Jarrett. Did you think that when you watched that? You're like, wait a minute. Did that guy just tell a whole coherent story, even though he's just like, you know,
movie magic.
You know, what did you think of Dum Dum?
Dum Dum.
Yeah, isn't that the guy's name in this? Dum Dum. The guy, yeah, it's Dum Dum. When the insurance adjuster goes to his house, and then Dum Dum turns the table, and he's like, "Don't go outside. There's cops out there." That guy's name's Dum Dum, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think of Dum Dum?
No real thoughts one way or another.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. There's a lot of those kinds of names in this thing, like Dum Dum, Pretty Boy George, George the Animal Steel.
You wish.
George Costanza. Yeah, so the Killers.
So, yeah. In between these Killers movies, we have a Russian short film, a student film, with such personnel as Andrei Tarkovsky, everyone's favorite Criterion alum. And his first little dilly-dally in making movies when he was a young man, The Killers, 1955. The description from Letterboxd. The Killers is a 1956 student film by the Soviet and Russian film director Andrei Tarkovsky and his fellow students Marika Baku and Alexander Gordon. The film is based on the short story The Killers by Ernest Hemingway, written in 1927. It was Tarkovsky's first film, produced when he was a student at the State Institute of Cinematography. Hell of a description of this plot. So this is just factually the most accurate adaptation of the short story, as it is just the short story. Up for debate, though, is it good? So this is, in my original review of this, when I watched it a few years ago, I was like, yep, this feels exactly like a student film where when you're in your early 20s, you have access to other people who are in their early 20s who do not look like lived-in 40, 50-year-old men who are paid killers. But don't let that stop you. Just throw a trench coat, a fedora on them, get them to talk wise, like real tough, talking about eggs, and you talking about you're a real bright guy. You're a real bright guy. And that's boom, movie magic. And then you're like, wait a minute, this story that we're adapting, it's an American film, and there's a black cook in this story.
A what, Jarrett?
A black cook, an African-American man.
How do they refer to this guy?
Well, RJ, like the short story, there's certain N words that are deployed. Now, I will say that I'm not sure exactly what the actual count is here in the Tarkovsky film, but it is nowhere near
like 12.
Is it that many in the actual film?
No, it's like maybe 6 or 7.
In the book, though, in the short story, boy oh boy, it's like real like, that's uncomfortable. But anyway, in Russia, there seemed to have been a shortage of black people to use. So what do? You get your friend to black up, and he gets to play the cook. And it's...
The cock? Did you just say?
The cook.
Oh, okay. Hey, Jarrett, in that hit film Capes, did you have any people black up for that movie?
I can say no. I did not have anyone black up in my film. That was my.
So you passed the test.
That was that exactly. I wonder if Tarkovsky was like, he showed it and they went, "Oh, I'm sorry, everything was going great." Then you failed. Oh, I shouldn't do that, right? It's like, yeah, you could have picked like any. You could have just done something else, but you wanted to keep it for accuracy. I don't know. From a
Tell me more.
From a position of privilege, it's kind of hilarious because it's like, holy shit, like you just don't expect it, and there it is, and it's like so badly applied because you can see like the whiteness under like the neck where they put it, and like behind the ears they miss, and it's like so pointless, like you barely see the guy, but no, we want this profile shot, like this 3/4 view from behind of him just like coming in and going, yep, and then he gets tied up in the back, and that's it. It's
pretty good, eh?
Yeah, it's like, oh, Andrei. But, I guess he never does it again that I know of, unless there's like elements of like The Mirror that I'm not aware of, or Stalker. But so this though like, okay, from a technical standpoint, it's like it is black and white. It's I mean, if you were having to pick a short story to tackle and you have like limited resources, this is a pretty good one to use because you don't really need too much. You just need some bodies. But there's nothing really interesting in the telling. There's like the shots are just like, hey, these are guys sitting at a counter in a room, and then there's a bit in the kitchen, and then there's like the bedroom, and that's about it. It is to the point, just like Hemingway's prose, but nothing like to merit its existence. It's just there. I don't know. It's inoffensive, but it is, unless you're watching these movies, or a really interested in Tarkovsky, there's not much there to recommend from like a technical standpoint or filmmaking standpoint.
Just like you.
Yeah. What are your thoughts here?
I feel like everyone else is a little harder on it than I am. I watched it and I was like, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. I don't know. The few things I will say are
it's 20 minutes long.
It's 20 minutes long. I actually liked the slow play of the like the whole scene a lot better in this. It had a room to breathe, where it's like I was saying in the first movie, they fucking run through that thing, and I counted.
It's punchier.
It's about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then this one is 20 minutes. So it's that one, like the movie goes through it in half the time. And then this, it kind of, like, I can see that going either way with someone being like, oh, well, it just fucking drags it out. And it's like, yeah, I'm usually that guy who says that. But I don't know. I kind of liked the build because I thought it made the scene a little bit more tense. Because it's like, oh, look at this bright boy. Oh, a bright boy. You go to the movies? You should go to the movies. You're a bright boy. You're going to like the movies. I'll have an egg and ham. And then you're like, okay. And it just it just keeps going. And there's no, it's not fast enough for things to just kind of like happen. And then you to be like, whoa, afterwards. It just builds to it where you're just like, these guys, these are not my guys. That's what you're saying while you're watching this. And you're like, ugh. And then I did like the really goofy student film cuts to where it's like them talking and then it just cuts to them being like tied to chairs. And you're like, whoa, edgy, man. So that's cool. My one note of this was that there's something off-putting about eating with gloves. So both of those guys eat with their gloves.
Don't want to leave no fingerprints.
I know, but it's very weird to see. It's like seeing someone, I don't know, like in a building eating this like weird pot that has eggs in it, allegedly. Eggs and bacon, and they're just like eating it with a spoon. Did you see those weird pots they were eating out of?
Yeah.
It was like those Indian food dishes that like have curry in them.
Yep.
It's like those, but with like eggs in there. I was like, what kind of eggs are these dudes eating? You know?
The egg kind. Or nothing.
Yeah, maybe the egg kind or the nothing kind. Yeah. And that's about all there is to say about that little ditty. Yep.
Next up, The Killers, 1964, directed by Don Siegel.
Oh, baby.
Tagline for this film, there's more than one way to kill a man.
Is there?
And the synopsis, a hitman and his partner try to find out why their latest victim, a former race car driver, did not try to get away.
So
why isn't this both two hitmen? Why is it a hitman and his partner? It's so awkward. It's like,
yeah. I mean, that's a good point, Jarrett.
That's yeah. Anyways, so very first thing that hits me with this movie, it's been a while. This one I saw first, a long time ago. I was like, wait, why is this in full frame? And then I'm like, oh, this was meant for to be made for TV. And in fact, was going to be like the first made for TV movie, but it was deemed too violent for television.
Oh, fuck. Is it violent?
Is it violent, RJ?
Well, based on the extremely fake way that they shoot the guns in the intro, I don't think it's very violent. You see how they're like, pa, pa. Like, I'm pretty sure they were making the sound effects with their face. They're like poo poo, and they're just like thrusting. They're busting the guns forward.
Yes.
I mean, that's the only violent thing about this, isn't it?
So this movie opens up with a bold proclamation: Ernest Hemingway's The Killers. And is the most inaccurate of tellings.
Any of them.
Of any of them, this is the most inaccurate. As it opens up with these two boys. They show up at the School of the Blind. Toxic Avengers nowhere to be seen. And they are there to murder John Cassavetes.
And
then get rich. So they show up, and there's like some like almost like blind jokes that are like, oh yeah, this is weird. This doesn't feel like a hard-bitten like neo-noir or anything like that. It's kind of like feels like Batman like at times. Like this movie's like bright poppy colors. It doesn't really feel like there's a whole lot of danger going on. And then old hound dog Lee Marvin, he's like, something about this doesn't fit. Why did that guy seem so okay with us killing him? His partner doesn't give a shit. He's like too busy being cool and being the young upstart that is going to wind up dead. Because that's
drinking carrot juice.
That's what happens to guys like him, wearing his sunglasses inside, being a real dickhead.
Yep.
And so the guy they kill is John Cassavetes. He's a future Criterion alum too, making those movies of his own
pretty soon.
Yeah, and then Rosemary's Baby and stuff. And I just saw him and Lee Marvin together in like Dirty Dozen, which they don't make for another 3 years till after this. So anyway,
true.
They're hanging out, being pals. So we get flashbacks, lots of flashbacks to John Cassavetes and Angie Dickinson, and because you know what, Lee Marvin's cool. Let's make him not in this movie as much. That's always a big old bummer.
What do they do in those flashbacks, Jarrett?
They drive cars in front of like very cheap rear projection.
And what else?
They drive some more, and they go for dinner. And there's talk about the future and like how she loves like men with these dangerous jobs. She like boxers too. But then we get the real money, the real money of this film. Future President of the United States of America, Ronald Reagan, pack in some legendary hair. Yeah, it's
what else does he do?
Well, he slaps a woman, RJ.
I can put an end to that very quickly.
Which I can just throw out right there and there that he apparently regretted that a lot. He really wished he hadn't done that in that movie.
Do you think he regretted it, or he regretted it being filmed?
I think everything. The whole kit and caboodle.
I mean, like, I know he was the president and stuff, but it's still a movie. He's just acting. He didn't really slap that woman, did he?
No.
Yeah, so it's no biggie.
He's nowhere near her face.
Yeah, it's no biggie.
It's like Lee Marvin in The Big Heat smashes like hot coffee in a woman's face.
Well, Marvin and the opening of this movie shakes the shit out of a blind woman.
Yeah, that bit's pretty awesome.
Yeah, he's roughing up these blind ladies, and he's like, "Listen here, you bitch. I don't care if you're blind."
Wow, that's RJ's screenplay writing right there. A real Christopher McQuarrie here.
Oh, who?
Christopher McQuarrie. Tom Cruise's man.
Why, did he just get hit with a scandal, or?
No.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, I'll be him then.
Yeah, you can just watch Way of the Gun, and you'll be like, wow, I wish I could write this well.
Big if true. Hey, Seymour Cassel is in this movie?
Yeah, he's at the hotel.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he makes a discreet phone call.
I didn't watch this movie.
No, I guess not. I was all over that.
Oh, I didn't realize, man. I was too busy watching Ronald Reagan slap ladies.
Oh, at the very end of the movie. Where were you for the rest of it?
Well, I don't know if you know this, Jared, but most of this movie is John Cassavetes driving a go-kart. And
oh man, that go-kart scene.
I was pretty checked out for that. I'm not gonna lie to you. So this movie, I found two things I really liked. The first 2 minutes and the last 2 minutes. Mostly because this movie really fucking gets you riled up right at the start. That music's pumping and it's got that red screen and then it's just like Lee Marvin and you're like, holy shit. You're like, this is the real deal here. And you get introduced to Lee Marvin. He's going into the school of the blind. He's roughing up people. He fucking runs in there and you're just like, God damn. He's got no empathy. He's got no feelings, Jared. And then they kill him. John Cassavetes, that is. And then I don't think it's, again, just like in the other one where it's like, I don't feel like this insurance guy was warranted in the extent of which he looked into this. And I feel like the same is with this. Because Lee Marvin is like, that guy didn't really try to get away. That was a little weird. But I think they overplay that scene because they like enter the room and he just stands there and he's like, But like, what was he going to do? You know, what was he gonna do? Like hide under the desk? I guess maybe that's probably what people do.
Yeah, and then they wouldn't have thought anything of it. But he just stood there and took it. And he's like, "That's weird. I've killed a lot of people in my life."
I think it would have been better if they emphasized it a little more, like if he had just sat down and he was like, all right. But I feel like that's not even that weird too, because I feel like if these guys are professional hitmen, maybe like 1 in 20 guys might be like, all right, whatever. And just kind of like accept it.
And they too also have $1 million stake hidden away somewhere.
Yeah, did they rob a hat factory too, or was it the U.S. Postal Service?
Yeah, they just took that big old sack with the $sign on it.
Ooh, baby. So yeah, you have that, and I felt like his motivations were a little bit weird. And like I said earlier, I think the boxing background is a lot more interesting than the race car driver, because I don't think the race car driver is like very interesting at all. I guess it's to add.
Well,
action.
It doesn't help that like the actual race car footage is like very undramatic.
Yeah. I mean, you're right.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
it's a lot of rear projection, and it's like, but it's not very well executed.
Yeah.
No.
It's not.
I mean, I would say that like on the whole, on watching these back to back, I think I enjoyed this one more, but I think that's just because I like John Cassavetes and I like Lee Marvin, and even when they're not like doing the most interesting of things, and this is the thing, it's like I like Burt Lancaster a lot, but I'd say it's like, ooh, we got 2 in this one and only 1 in the other. But there's like nothing too much to write home about. I mean, I didn't feel like I wasted my time watching this. There's like some like it's like watching like a made for TV movie that's just like, oh yeah, this is like Sunday afternoon watching. Nothing's going to stick to your bones. Nothing's going to like. I mean, watching it again, I was kind of like, oh yeah, the reveal of Ronald Reagan with the binoculars in the stands at the racetrack, and then I love his henchman, his like right hand man, because he's a very nice man. He's kind of quiet, well, like kind of like not like a grimacing evil henchman. He's not like a typical heavy. He's kind of just like, hey, calm down, like don't be acting like that. And when he's like having his sweat and he's being interrogated, he seems like a decent man on the whole.
I agree.
Yeah.
He does seem like a decent man.
And even Ronnie here, he's like, for the most part, keeps his cool till he gets really pissed off near the end. Then it's like he's lying, and then it's like when they find out, oh, he lied to us, and he's like, yeah, he did, because he wants to keep his money.
Well, why wouldn't he lie, Jarrett?
Why wouldn't he lie?
Why wouldn't he lie? Yes, I agree with what you just said.
That you.
I was totally like I do think it is like I liked it a little bit more too, just because I like John Cassavetes and I like Lee Marvin, and it was novel to see Ronald Reagan walking around. I think the only other thing I've seen him in is that Dan Aykroyd UFO movie where he's just sitting in a dark room in a chair smoking for an hour and a half. Apparently he's credited in that. I don't know where, but all right. So yeah, like I think I liked this one the most too, just because it had the most pop, I guess. Yeah. But I do think the 46 one has better.
Yeah.
The 46 one is like better aesthetically, like just watching it, and then I think this one is.
It's easier to watch.
It's easier to watch, yeah, because it's like more like boom, boom, bam, ba-doom, boom, ba-da. That's that music at the start, Jarrett. And that's everyone knows that feeling that I just described to you.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, bam, ba-doom, boom, ba-da.
Well, we're doing it here. We're doing here on the podcast.
Hey, how many N-words were dropped in this one?
None.
Oh, well, see, I mean, Ronald Reagan hit a lady, but it's not like Tarkovsky full-on blackface, so that's good.
Well, I mean, Tarkovsky's blacking up his friends, shooting horses.
People can't see, but Jarrett's in blackface right now.
Oh, come on.
Well, you make gross exaggerations of my character frequently, all the time. See what I'm dealing with here? You see?
Well, RJ, let's discuss who hates the Killers.
I mean, does anyone even care that much?
I can't see why they would. So for 1946, we got Lindsay Wilson.
Okay.
Trash, I'm sorry.
I feel like I feel like she should have used a comma.
That's not internet.
Do you know?
That's not internet, RJ.
It's not internet? This person watches a lot of these oldies. Favorite movies include The More the Merrier from 1943, Great Escape, Cape Fear, the old one, Jaws, seems weird. Half-star movies include Napoleon Dynamite, School of Rock, Citizen Kane, Easy Rider, which you were just talking about.
I was talking about a documentary. But
Easy Rider?
Easy Rider's Raging Bulls.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Easy Rider.
That fits into that whole thing.
This person also gave Grey Gardens 1 star, which I feel is unfair, and also Holes 1 star, which is not, Holes is a really good show. I don't know why everyone shits on Holes all the time. You know?
Sophie V 88, 2 stars.
Mm-hmm.
This adaptation is incorrect.
What adaptation would be correct, Sophie? Sovive. Favorite movies include Jarrett's favorite movie, Happiness, Sleepaway Camp, Heathers.
Hey, those are all gooders.
And It's Such a Beautiful Day, that animated thing.
Oh.
This person has many 5-star reviews, but these half-star reviews are pretty telling. Blood for Dracula, Shallow Hal, You Don't Mess with the Zohan, a certified creep-approved 4-star film.
Not accurate.
Well, I mean by our fans, not by...
Oh, I see.
Yeah, a lot of people email in the preamble about how they like the Zohan.
All right. That's it.
Okay.
1964's The Killers.
Okay.
Chris Mack, half a star.
Mm-hmm.
I could not get through this version. I don't even know how they can say Ernest Hemingway's before the title. This bears no resemblance to the chilling short story. Instead of terrorizing a few people in a diner, the killers terrorize a school for the blind. Really. Ironically, John Cassavetes is in this piece of junk. Most likely only to be able to fund his own films. Ronald Reagan plays a heavy in this thing. A heavy. Reagan. Nuff said.
What a hot take, Jarrett. I mean, did you know John Cassavetes was in movies that he didn't want to be in just so that he could create his own films? Did you know that, Jarrett?
Why are you talking
this
like
person,
Bobby Boucher? That's all I want to know.
Well, I don't know. They have 0 5-star ratings. They have 1 half-star rating. Like, I mean, who even are these people? But their favorite films include Manhattan, Patterson.
Did they watch it when they were 12?
Grand Illusion. I'm pretty sure they watched all of these movies when they were 12. Yeah. They are a writer and producer of film and digital content.
Ooh.
See what I mean there, Jarrett?
We are also producers of digital content.
Some would say.
Finally, 1.5 stars. Tony Wharton.
That's a name.
I'm a huge fan of Lee Marvin, but this abomination should never have been made. Watching it on the heels of the 1946 version only made it worse. Lee Marvin and John Cassavetes were definitely slumming it. Norman Fell, Claude Atkins, Ronald Reagan. We're to think he would become governor of California just 3 years later. Bad exposition. TV backlot sets. Oh yeah, they're like the one set that they're on in front of the hotel. It is a straight up like movie backlot that I've seen.
Is that bad?
Yeah, it's cheap. It definitely exposes a movie, but those are the same sets that were used for like movies like Blade Runner. But then they just gussy them up, put some rain on that, get some neon, shoot at night. Ooh, movie magic. TV music and camera work. I won't call it cinematography. Criterion should never have packaged these two versions together, even for a laugh. At least the ending was truly noir.
Noir.
So the ending's pretty, whatever. It's like, he shows up, and he's like, he gets vengeance for his fallen comrade, that Lee Marvin. He storms the house, just lights people up. And then he gets it himself and walks out into the Los Angeles suburb, and then the money goes blowing out into a big lump.
Blowing out where?
I don't know, your ass. And then and then Big Lee's dead.
That's true. Hey, do you want to hear some bad takes from Tony Wharton?
Sure.
1-star films, Starship Troopers, and Death Wish. Death Wish, Jarrett. Not good.
I'm giving a
Sad.
disapproving eyebrow right now.
Some 2-star films include... Oh, no, wait, this isn't what I was going to show you. 2.5-star films include... Oh, wait, I clicked on the same thing again. 2.5-star films include... Wait a minute, this isn't what I wanted. So a lot of their movies that they liked were like Criterion type movies, Jarrett. Do you know what I mean by that?
I don't even know what that means anymore.
Okay, 2-star films. This is what I wanted to get at. No, it's not. What the fuck was I looking at? I was looking at something and I was like, oh, those are weird takes.
You bring so much to the table.
Hey, do you know what I'm talking about, Jared, over there? Oh, no, it was the 4.5-star films. That's what it was. 4.5 stars to The Other Killers, the 46 one. 4.5 stars to The Horse's Mouth with Alec, smart Alec Guinness. 4.5 stars to Mon on Cole, which was like a fine movie, but that's not a 4.5-star film. You know what I mean, Jared?
Wonderful.
See, I got there eventually.
Marvelous.
I got there eventually. Nice.
Well,
that's it.
There you go. So what is, if someone had only one destination, RJ, what would you send them toward? Tarkovsky, Lee Marvin, Burt Lancaster, or just to the source material?
I would probably just watch Butt Crack instead.
It's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube for free. I don't know, like the Lee Marvin one because he's in it. But it's like, I don't know. The 46 one looks better, but the 64 one is easier to watch.
It definitely has like it feels like a real movie. This, like I said, like this movie has like that aesthetic of like pop art, which also makes me think of Batman.
Yeah, but then if you watch both of those, you might as well watch the Tarkovsky, and if you watch one of them, you might as well watch the other. It's a no-win gambit. You either watch them all or don't watch any. And honestly, you could get by without watching.
Well, just like Burt Lancaster, after the break, we're just gonna lay around in bed, waiting for our killers to come and put us out of our misery. Shouldn't have hit him.
Sure.